Live, we're live.
Yes. So, hello everyone. Well, we're back again with LJY-Netzer's Taste of Torah. This week with me, Tom, member of KLS, and the Rabbi of Kingston Liberal Synagogue, Rabbi Rene Furtzel. So, Rene, what is the Torah portion this week?
So this week we have actually a double Torah portion. We have Matot Maaseh, and the reason we have two portions in one, it's because of a Jewish calendar. You know that some years we have 13 months, other years we have 12 months, and this year is a 12-month years. And it's because our calendar is based on the lunar cycle and the solar cycle. The lunar cycle gives us the month, so every month we start on the full moon, and the solar cycle gives us the festivals and also the agricultural cycle of the land of Israel. So next time we have a 13th month, which is Adar Sheni, will be in 2022. So we have a bit of time to wait, yes. So Matot Maaseh are the last two portions of the book of Numbers. And next week we will start the book of Deuteronomy. And it's really at the end of the journeys of the children of Israel in the desert, in the wilderness. And they're now just watching, over the mountains, they're just watching the Jordan Valley, and on the other side, what they call the Promised Land, the land of Israel. But they can't go in yet. They still have a few things to settle. There's a whole book about a recap of the law. There are things they have to sort out. At the end of the portion, there's something I will talk about later, which is amending the law, which is interesting in the Torah. You have some places where the law is amended as well. Yeah. So now, in terms of content, I need to open my book because I don't know everything by heart. Who could imagine rabbis don't know everything by heart? So the Matot is it's interesting because it starts with the idea of when you make a vow. When you make a promise, you have to be very careful because in the Bible, they used to make vows before God. So when you involve God into your vow making, you have to be very careful because, it's not just, I promise this and then I won't fulfill it. So they really emphasize you have to be very strong and determined when you make a vow, you have to fulfill it. Then there is a long war between Israel and Midian. I'm not going to dwell on it because it's quite bloody. There's a lot of death, and including Balaam. A previous portion we had Balak, with Balaam was supposed to curse Israel, and he couldn't curse Israel because God didn't allow him to do that. So he still dies in this portion. And then there's a peculiar passage where, as they are dividing the land, two tribes decide to stay on the other side of Jordan, the tribe of Reuven and Gad. They say they'd rather stay on the other side. So it's a bit, we want to be in, but we're not sure about that. So it's an interesting passage as well. The next portion is Maaseh, which means the marches, the journey, which is really the final portion of the book of Numbers. And we have first a list of the different places where they journeyed, from Egypt till where they are now, just at the end, at the entrance of a promised land. So you have all the different stages, the names of the places where they encamped. So I'm going to talk a bit about this later because I think there's something interesting for LJY-Netzer to keep to take out of this portion. And then also a very important passage, which is the boundaries of the land, and it's a very it's a very modern concern. What are the boundaries of the land of Israel? So of course we know it's the sea, the Jordan, the Lebanon, and the Negev. But there are some differences. So Moses tells them explicitly what these boundaries are. And there's also a very interesting passage about the cities of refuge that are run by the Levites. So when someone has killed another person non-intentionally, so it's very important. So you kill someone. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Of course, in those days, they had a vendetta, so the family would come and try to take revenge. And the Torah has set apart 6 or 9, I don't remember, 6, I think, cities of refuge where this guy could actually go and get protected until he gets a proper trial, which is probably a great improvement. Because previously it was a vendetta style of making justice yourself. And it finishes with a fascinating passage about the daughter of Tzelofhad. So Tzelofhad was a guy who died in the wilderness and he didn't have sons. So according to biblical law, only sons are allowed to inherit from their father. And here we have a case where this man died and he has 5 daughters. And of course, what happens to this inheritance? And the 5 daughters go to Moses and to Aaron and say, this is the situation. He died. He had no sons. What happens? And Moses and Aaron went to God, and God said, yeah, they're right. So let's allow them to inherit. So there's something about protecting women's right. Of course, it's not perfect. About 30 centuries ago, so it's a big improvement compared to what they used to live around in the surrounding cultures. But there's also something about changing the law. Changing the law is possible. We can change the law and adapt it. The tradition within Judaism is something that is not frozen, that is not fixed. And from the early stages of our text, we can see this ability to change and to adapt. So that's in a nutshell what we can find is very rich double portion today.
Right. And so what can LJY take from this portion? What lessons can we learn from it?
Yeah. So I was reading one of the texts this morning to prepare for Shabbat, and there's really 2 verses at the beginning of Parashat Maaseh, which says, Ele Maaseh Bnei Israel. These are the journeys of the children of Israel. And then you have a list of all the places they went through the wilderness. And of course, the question is, why do we need to put all these names, all these locations in the biblical text? And then I saw some commentaries and made me think about life as a journey. And Tom, actually, you are in the same situation, because you are going from one place to the other. You are changing your life entirely. But what you are going, the place where you're going to now, Israel, you will not forget the place you're coming from and the person you are today. And it applies to all of us, LJY-Netzer, all the people like me, we are the result of all these places we went to. We are the result of all the people we met in our lives. Anytime we meet someone who is influential, we become a somehow different person. Anytime we go to a place where something strong happens to us, we become a different person. And I think it's very important to keep this in mind, because it's like writing the history of our own lives. It's like, because we are all stories, each life is a story. And when we tell a story with places, locations, people we've met, emotions we felt. And this is what life is about. It's a succession of places, people, emotions as well, because, I come from France. I was born in Strasbourg. I moved to Lorraine, which is in the eastern part of France, and then we moved to Paris, and then I moved back to Alsace, and then I moved to Israel, and then I moved to London, and in London I moved from Hornsey, Walthamstow, Kingston. All these places are part of my personal life, and each of us, all of you who are watching us today, think about all the places you've been already and all the people you've met already in your lives who are making the person you are today, and remain open to the many possibilities that life has to offer. It can be a bit scary sometimes, because we don't always know. Change is always a bit difficult to deal with, but it's what makes life really fascinating. We have to have the courage, to say, okay, I'm going to move like you did, Tom. moving from one country to the other. It's a big step, even if it's a Jewish state. It's a different country, so it's a big step. And you had this courage, and I think it's important for us as human beings to be able to be open to this. All what life has to offer to us. And I don't know how old you are, those who are watching us today. So I guess from early ages to bar mitzvah and beyond. But think about your life as a succession of steps, of places you go, of people you meet, and try to get the best out of it. Try to make the best out of all these people and places you will see.
Thank you much, Rabbi Rene.
Thank you.
And so again, we'll be back next week with more Taste of Torah with student Rabbi Gabriel Weber and our beloved Boger Gideon Leibovitz. Okay.
Shabbat shalom to you all. Bye-bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye-bye. Bye.